The first snowstorm of the season had rolled in faster than the forecast predicted, blanketing the town of Pine Hollow in a thick white sheet. Visibility was dropping by the minute, and the pine trees along Route 16 shivered under the weight of icy gusts. Officer Lauren McKinley gripped the wheel of her Ford Explorer patrol unit, her jaw clenched. In the passenger seat, Rex sat perfectly still. Alert, his sharp amber eyes fixed forward, nostrils twitching as if reading a language only he could understand. Her radio buzzed. "Unit 4, we've got a report from Pine Hollow Elementary. 9-year-old female, name's Abigail Barnes. Last seen near the west field behind the school. Possible missing child. Mother's in hysterics." Lauren's heart skipped. "Copy that," she said. Officer McKinley responding with K9 Rex. She flipped the siren for just a second, slicing through the snow-packed silence, then killed it. No need to panic the neighborhood. As they pulled up behind the school, Lauren spotted the principal and Abby's mother huddled near the chain-link fence separating the school grounds from the dense forest. Mrs. Barnes was shaking uncontrollably, soaked from the snow, her words tumbling over each other. "She was just playing. I turned to talk to her teacher for 5 minutes. She was gone. She always stays in sight. This isn't like her." Lauren nodded, already scanning the tree line. "She have any medical conditions?" "No, nothing. She's healthy. She's not the type to wander." Anyone she'd run off with? A family friend, maybe. Mrs. Barnes looked offended, then terrified. "No, no one. She wouldn't just leave." Rex let out a low, almost imperceptible rumble. His body was stiff, his ears up and forward. Lauren caught it immediately. "Rex has a scent," she told the others. "I need clearance to go into the forest." The principal hesitated. "The sheriff said no one's to go in until search and rescue gets here. Snow's getting worse. Visibility's going to hell." "I've got 5 years in K9 tracking," Lauren said, "and I trust Rex more than half the humans on the force. Every second counts with a missing kid." Before they could argue, Rex barked once, loud, commanding. Then he tugged against his leash toward a section of broken fence. Lauren didn't wait for approval. "I'm going in." She slipped through the break in the fence, following Rex's powerful strides as he guided her into the woods. Snow crunched underfoot, thick and heavy. The sounds of town fell away within seconds, replaced by the eerie hush of wilderness. Trees groaned under the weight of snow, and the wind moaned through narrow gaps in the branches. Rex moved like a creature possessed, nose to the ground, his pace urgent. Lauren's breath came faster, both from exertion and dread. "Easy, boy. We'll find her," she murmured, more to herself than him. Suddenly, Rex stopped cold. He sniffed a spot, on the snow, pawed at it, then growled. Lauren bent down. There, partially covered by a drift, was a tiny red mitten. She picked it up, turned it over, and spotted a name tag sewn inside. Abby Barnes. Her pulse surged. "She's close," she whispered. "You got her, Rex?" Rex didn't respond with a bark. Instead, he took off again, veering deeper into the woods, leading her further from any marked trail. Snow pelted them from above as the wind picked up. Lauren tried her radio. Nothing. Static. Of course, the signal was blocked by the ridge. They kept moving until Rex stopped again, ears perked. He gave a low, vibrating growl and stared at a patch of forest to the right. Lauren followed his gaze and stepped forward carefully. There, barely visible under the brush, was a broken children's hair clip, and a small trail of blood, tiny drops leading down a slope. Her stomach turned. "That's not just a lost kid," she muttered. A voice suddenly echoed behind them. "McKinley, you were ordered to stay on the perimeter." Lauren spun around. It was Deputy Carter, bundled up in a reflective orange coat, stomping toward her through the snow. "You can't be serious," he said. "You took off into the woods with a blizzard coming and no backup?" She's out here. Rex found her scent, found her mitten. Blood, too. We have no time, Carter. You're reckless. He snapped. If something happens to you or the dog, you mean if something happens to the girl. Before Carter could reply, Rex growled again. Sharper, louder. They turned. The growl wasn't aimed at Carter. It was deeper into the woods now. Lauren raised her flashlight. Just beyond the tree line, a faint shape moved. Something hunched low. Not a child. An adult-sized silhouette stood still for a moment, then vanished behind a tree. Who the hell was that? Carter asked. Lauren's voice was low. We're not dealing with a kid who wandered off. Someone took her. She turned to Rex. Track. Rex bolted, and Lauren ran after him, heart pounding, leaving Carter cursing behind her. They plunged into a narrow gully, where the wind was momentarily blocked. The snow was thinner here, and Lauren spotted more blood. Then, a shoe. Small. Soaked. Rex whined softly, circling. Lauren crouched and picked it up. It was Abby's size. A child didn't just lose her shoe in the woods. And that silhouette? This was no accident. No random disappearance. She took out her phone, snapped pictures, uploaded them to a secure folder in the cloud, something she'd started doing after her last case went sideways. Then she checked the battery. 15%. Perfect. She muttered. Rex barked sharply again, drawing her attention up the ridge. He stood at attention, his breath misting in the cold, his body rigid, staring into darkness. She followed his line of sight. Was that a cabin? Lights flickered through the trees. Someone was out here, maybe more than one someone. And Abby might be inside. Lauren steadied herself, whispered to Rex. Stay close. We're doing this our way. And with that, they disappeared deeper into the wilderness, chasing something far more dangerous than a missing child. The cabin was barely visible through the blowing snow, more a shadow pressed against the tree line than a structure. Its windows flickered with weak orange light, almost like a beacon. But it wasn't welcoming. Something about it felt wrong. Too isolated. Too quiet. Lauren crouched behind a fallen log, brushing snow from her jacket sleeve as she raised her binoculars. Inside, a figure moved past the window, a large man, pacing. Then another shape, smaller, darted by quickly. It was too fast to make out details, but her gut tightened. That could have been Abby. Beside her, Rex stayed low, his eyes locked on the cabin like he was memorizing every movement. His breath came in slow, steady huffs, but his body language was taut. Ready. Good boy, she whispered, running a gloved hand down his neck. We're not going in, Loud. Not yet. She scanned the surrounding area. There was a rusty pickup partially buried in snow near the back of the cabin, its windows frosted over. No license plate. The front door looked reinforced, double padlocked. But the side had a narrow cellar entrance, mostly hidden by brush and drift. Lauren pulled back and whispered, We go silent. You stick with me. Eyes up. Rex gave a low huff of acknowledgement. They moved together, weaving between trees like shadows. Lauren's boots barely crunched on the frozen ground, and Rex was silent as breath. As they approached the cellar door, Lauren knelt again, brushing away snow. The handle was iced over, but not locked. That alone was strange. She eased it open just enough to peek in. The scent hit first, mildew, gasoline, and something sharper. Ammonia. Her instincts screamed drug lab. Damn it, she murmured. This is bigger than just a kidnapping. She turned to Rex, ready to back out and call for a full tactical sweep. But just then, Rex's ears twitched. He growled softly and stared down the steps. Lauren heard it too, a muffled cry. Faint, desperate, a child. Decision made. She drew her Glock, checked the chamber, and gave Rex the silent signal. The German shepherd moved first, his body tight with focus, descending the steps without hesitation. Lauren followed, careful and fast. The basement was lit with a single hanging bulb, swaying slightly. The walls were lined with crates and metal shelves filled with lab equipment, tubing, jugs marked with chemical warnings. In the far corner, a tarp hung like a curtain. Behind it, more whimpering. She moved in fast. Rex darted ahead, sniffing near the curtain, then sat, ears forward, posture locked. That was his signal. Human presence. Lauren yanked the curtain aside. Abby. The little girl was huddled in a corner, duct tape on her wrists and a makeshift gag loose on her chin. Her eyes were wide, terrified, but she was alive. Abby, Lauren whispered, rushing over. She peeled the tape off gently. I'm Officer Lauren. You're safe now. You hear me? Abby nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. They said they were going to take me away in a truck. I didn't believe them. We're getting you out of here. Can you walk? She nodded again. Rex nuzzled her hand, making her giggle through the tears. That's when Lauren heard it. A door above slammed. Boots, multiple, heavy, coming down. Stay behind me, she ordered. She drew her weapon again, heart hammering. 3 men appeared at the top of the stairs. One had a hunting rifle, another held a taser. The third was the man from the window, tall, scarred, his eyes cold. Well, well, he sneered. Didn't think the cops would be this stupid. Or fast. I could say the same. Lauren replied, keeping her weapon trained. Step down and put your hands where I can see them. The man with the rifle laughed. That's not how this ends. It happened fast. He raised the barrel. Lauren fired. The shot clipped his shoulder, sending him spinning. The second man lunged down the stairs, but Rex was faster. With a thunderous snarl, Rex launched, taking him down at the knees. His jaws clamped onto the man's arm as he screamed and flailed. The third man hesitated. Then he ran. Stay with her, Lauren shouted to Rex, and bolted after the last guy, tearing through the basement, up the stairs, past racks of chemicals. She burst into the snow-covered yard just as the man jumped into the truck. He started it, engine coughing to life. Lauren fired at the tire. The bullet punctured rubber with a loud hiss, but the truck didn't stop. The driver floored it, straight into a tree. Airbags exploded. She approached slowly, gun raised. Inside, the man was knocked out cold. By the time backup arrived 15 minutes later, led by a red-faced Carter still fuming from before, Lauren had Abby wrapped in her coat, sitting beside Rex in the snow, surrounded by confiscated evidence. She found the girl. One of the younger officers whispered. Just her and the dog? No. Another said, not just a dog. That's Rex. Lauren didn't say much as they loaded the suspects into cuffs. She didn't need to. Rex stood beside her, chest out, calm but watchful, like a warrior who didn't need a parade to know he'd saved a life. Abby reached down, stroked his head and whispered, You're my hero. Rex didn't bark. He just rested his chin gently on her lap, as if he already knew. The snow had started to ease by the time they got back to the sheriff's substation, but the tension in the air had only thickened. Lauren sat in the small debrief room, her hands cupped around a lukewarm coffee. Across from her, Sheriff Don Carter paced like a man who wanted to yell, but hadn't figured out which part of the truth he was most angry about. You defied a direct order, he finally said, voice low and strained. You were told to wait for backup. You went in solo, with a K-9, no warrant, no support. I had probable cause. Lauren replied calmly. The child's life was in danger, and I was right. That doesn't make it protocol. It makes it justice. Carter stopped, glaring at her like he wished that argument didn't sound so damn convincing, but he couldn't argue with results. Abby was safe. The suspects were in custody. And the fentanyl lab? Blown wide open. He ran a hand over his buzzed scalp, exhaling. "You're not a hero, Lauren. You're a liability with a badge." Across the room, Rex let out a low, almost disapproving huff. Carter turned his glare towards the dog. "And you, don't even get me started on him. He's not even officially cleared for field work yet." "He's the only reason Abby's alive right now," Lauren snapped. They stared each other down for a long beat. Then Carter muttered, "Fine. Internal review in the morning. You're on desk duty until then. Both of you." He stormed out, leaving the door swinging behind him. Lauren sat in silence. Rex came over, laid his massive head on her lap, and looked up with those soulful amber eyes. She sighed and scratched behind his ears. "Well, buddy," she said, "I guess we're both benched." But the reprieve didn't last long. Not 20 minutes later, the door burst open again. Deputy Valerie Nguyen stood there, out of breath, holding a printout. "You need to see this," she said, handing over the sheet. It was a still image from a traffic cam, a grainy black and white frame of a van speeding down a forest road the night Abby disappeared. The plate was smeared by snow, but not unreadable. The timestamp: 2 hours after the reported abduction. "That's not the same van from the cabin," Lauren said immediately. "Exactly," Valerie replied. "We traced it. Belongs to a man named Curtis Rowe. Small-time mechanic. Lives out past Copper Ridge. Has a sealed record from the 90s and disappeared off the grid 5 years ago." Lauren narrowed her eyes. "So there were 2 groups?" "Looks like it. Maybe the cabin guys were paid to hold Abby. But this Curtis guy? He may have done the snatching." Lauren stood, heart pumping again. "We need to move." Valerie shook her head. "Not without Carter's go. He said the case was closed. Tell Carter I'm just taking my dog for a drive." She grabbed her jacket and Rex's lead. But Rex didn't wait. The moment they stepped outside, he bolted towards the patrol car, ears alert, tail stiff. He jumped into the front seat like he already knew they had more work to do. They drove toward Copper Ridge as the sky shifted from grey to bruised lavender. The wilderness thickened the farther they went. No lights, no signs, just frost-covered pine and winding roads. Lauren's phone rang. It was Valerie, again. "I dug a little deeper. Curtis Rowe had a daughter. Died in a car accident 12 years ago. Drunk driver. The girl was 8, blonde, same age Abby is now." Lauren's grip tightened on the wheel. "Curtis didn't just kidnap Abby," she said slowly. "He thinks she's his." The next twist came too fast. Just as they turned onto the unmarked road near the base of Copper Ridge, Lauren saw fresh tire tracks slicing through the snow. Then, movement. A man. He stood beside a rusted pickup half hidden in brush. Ragged jacket, thick beard. He saw them and ran. "Curtis!" Lauren shouted, throwing the car into park. Rex was out before she could open the door. He chased like a missile through the trees. Lauren followed, gun in hand. Curtis didn't get far. Rex took him down near a fallen stump, knocking him hard into the snow. Lauren caught up, panting, weapon trained. The man was yelling incoherently, half pleas, half curses. "She's mine!" he shrieked. "They took her from me. That's my little girl." "She's not your daughter," Lauren snapped. "Her name is Abby, and she has a family who's terrified. She looked just like her. I didn't hurt her. I just wanted time, just a little time." He broke into sobs. The madness behind his eyes flickered into grief. Lauren looked around. "Where is she, Curtis? Where is Abby?" He pointed toward the ridge. "Cabin. Up the hill. Red door. I swear she's safe. I brought her food. I told her stories. I didn't touch her." Lauren pressed the call button on her radio. This is Officer Monroe. I need a chopper with medics and child services to my GPS location. Potential second victim recovery. She cuffed Curtis with practiced ease, then turned to Rex. You ready to do it again? Rex barked once. Sharp, sure, like a soldier ready for orders. They moved up the ridge together, Lauren's breath misting in clouds, Rex leading the charge. Whatever waited behind that red door, they were walking into it together. The climb up Copper Ridge was no walk in the park. Lauren's boots crunched over crusted snow as she followed Rex's sure-footed stride. The wind whipped between the trees, bitter and unrelenting. Each step pushed them farther into the heart of the wilderness, and farther away from any backup that might have been coming. If Curtis was lying, she was walking straight into a trap. If he wasn't, Abby could be alone, scared, or worse. Rex's body was taut with alertness. His ears twitched at every branch crack, every echo off the ridge. He wasn't pulling at the lead anymore, he was guiding. That unspoken trust between handler and dog had crystallized into something deeper. In this moment, Rex wasn't following commands. He was leading a mission. At the top of the ridge, the tree line broke to reveal a small, weathered cabin. It was barely more than a hunting shack. Grey wood faded from years of exposure, chimney leaning like a tired soldier. Red door hanging slightly ajar. Lauren slowed, weapon drawn low. Rex crouched beside her, muscles rippling beneath his coat, eyes locked on the door. She took a breath, then moved. Abby? She called out. It's Officer Monroe. I'm here to help. No answer. She edged closer, flanked by Rex. The wind caught the door, creaking it wider. Inside, the cabin was dark. No light, no sound. A single cot, blankets scattered. Empty cans. A drawing taped to the wall. Crayon and pencil, uneven handwriting spelling. Daddy and me. Rex let out a low, deliberate growl. Lauren froze. Then she heard it. A muffled whimper. Abby? She said again, stepping fully into the cabin. Behind a loose panel near the fireplace, Rex sniffed hard, then barked once, short and sharp. Lauren dropped to her knees and pried the board free. A crawl space. Inside, shivering, eyes wide with terror, was Abby. The little girl stared for a moment, unsure. I'm Lauren, she said gently. And this is Rex. He's been looking for you. Abby blinked, then slowly reached a hand toward the dog. Rex inched forward, then nuzzled her fingers. She broke into sobs and threw her arms around him. Lauren exhaled for the first time in hours. Let's get you out of here. They were barely halfway down the ridge when the gunshot rang out. Rex spun. Lauren dropped into a crouch, shielding Abby. Another shot cracked through the trees, splintering bark inches from her face. What the hell? She hissed, dragging Abby behind a fallen log. Rex growled, low and guttural. Then a voice echoed from below. You should have stayed out of it, Monroe. It wasn't Curtis. It was Sheriff Don Carter. Lauren's blood went cold. Don? She shouted. What are you doing? He stepped into view, holding a scoped rifle, face twisted in fury. You were supposed to drop it after the cabin bust. He growled. You weren't supposed to dig deeper. Curtis was just a broken man, but now you've brought the feds down on my head. You knew. I made a deal. I needed the cash, Lauren. Do you know what a rural county budget looks like these days? You think anyone was going to care if one junkie pawned a kid to a grieving father? You let this happen, she said, voice shaking with rage. I kept the town running. You just couldn't leave well enough alone. Lauren reached for her radio, but Carter fired again, forcing her down. Throw the radio, he barked. Now. Rex stepped in front of Abby, tail high, body coiled. I won't let you hurt her, Lauren said, rising slowly. You won't have a choice, Carter sneered. Back away. That girl goes with me. We'll say you panicked, went rogue. You've already got a record for it. Another voice cut through the trees. "Try it, and I drop you where you stand." Deputy Valerie Nguyen emerged behind Carter, weapon raised, eyes locked. "You followed me," Lauren whispered. "You didn't answer your radio. I had a feeling," Valerie replied, never taking her eyes off Carter. Carter hesitated. That's when Rex launched. The German Shepherd sprang at lightning speed, knocking the rifle from Carter's hands with surgical precision. Carter stumbled, tried to recover, but Lauren was already there, slamming him against a tree and snapping cuffs around his wrists. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and attempted murder." She spat. Rex barked, short and proud. Valerie walked up, shaking her head. "I always thought something was off about him. Budget increases didn't match the paper trail." Lauren nodded grimly. "Abby's safe. That's all that matters right now." Helicopter blades thudded overhead as air support finally arrived, spotlights sweeping through the trees. Abby clung to Rex, her small hands buried in his thick fur. As the chopper touched down in a clearing, Lauren looked back at Rex. "You didn't just save her, boy. You saved all of us." Rex didn't bark. He just stood there, proud and still, like the quiet warrior he was. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Lauren felt the weight start to lift. But she knew deep down, this wasn't over. Not yet. The cold wind nipped at Lauren's face as the helicopter lifted off, taking Abby to safety with Valerie. Snowflakes danced in the rotor wash, blurring her vision for a second. She turned back to Rex, who stood beside her, calm and watchful. His eyes flicked towards the tree line, alert again. Something didn't sit right. Sheriff Carter's betrayal had shaken her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't working alone. The way he talked about dropping it after the cabin bust, the phrasing, it implied more than just one corrupt lawman making side deals. And there was Curtis. Why abduct his own daughter only to hide her in the mountains? Unless someone had convinced him it was safer than staying in town. Lauren crouched beside Rex and scratched behind his ears, grounding herself. "We're not done yet, are we, partner?" Rex blinked once and then looked east, toward the old fire roads that wound through Black Hollow. She'd barely made it 10 steps down the slope when her phone buzzed in her jacket pocket. It was a secured call, encrypted line, no caller ID. Her heart skipped. "Monroe?" she answered. "Agent Monroe," the voice said, low, male, confident. "You've made quite the mess in Mesa Creek." Lauren froze. "Who is this?" "Someone who used to admire your work from a distance, but you've gotten sloppy, taking on small-town corruption like it's some big conspiracy. It's not. It's survival." Her eyes scanned the woods. "What do you want?" "To offer a warning," the voice said, calm. "There are still rules. You've broken more than a few. Carter was a pawn. The board is much bigger than you think." Then the line went dead. Rex growled at nothing in particular, sensing her tension. She didn't have time to process the call. The moment she turned back towards the ridge, she saw the smoke. Thin black tendrils rising in the distance, about 2 miles off. There shouldn't be anything out there. Lauren and Rex moved quickly, cutting across the icy brush, boots sinking into layers of old snow. As they crested a small bluff, she saw it. The cabin was gone. What was once a derelict shelter was now a smoldering pit. The same one where Abby had been found. Someone had torched it, erased the scene. Rex barked sharply, drawing her attention to a set of fresh tire tracks near the edge. They were wide, off-road, military-grade treads. Someone had come back to clean up. That was no coincidence. Lauren took out her phone and snapped photos. She crouched, running her fingers along the cold rubber outline. They were deep, angled. Whoever drove in was in a hurry, but left slowly. She followed the tracks a few yards before she spotted it. A half-burned folder, discarded in the brush. Inside were torn documents, blackened edges, but a few still legible. Logistics manifests, shipping codes, and the kicker, a Department of Defense contractor seal. She muttered under her breath, "What the hell have we stumbled into?" Rex sniffed the folder, then barked once before stepping toward the woods. His body language shifted, nose low, ears forward. He was tracking again. Lauren pocketed the files, kept her sidearm close, and followed. The trail led to an old ranger station, abandoned for over a decade. Half of the roof had caved in from years of snow load, but the front door was still intact. She circled the building, noting subtle signs of recent use. Fresh boot prints, a cigarette butt, plastic meal packaging. Inside, the air was musty. Her flashlight beam caught rows of maps, scattered blueprints, a dusty radio that crackled suddenly as it powered on. Someone had jerry-rigged a transmitter. Rex moved to the corner of the room, sniffed hard, then pawed at the floorboards. Lauren knelt, pried them open, and found a hidden compartment. Inside, more documents, clean this time. Shipping routes, names, payments. One stood out, Operation Widow's Fang. She barely had time to register it before a creak on the porch made her freeze. She pointed her gun at the door just as a silhouette stepped into view. "Easy," said the man, hands raised. "Name's Malcolm Reese. I'm with the Bureau. And before you shoot me for not showing up earlier, let me explain." Lauren didn't lower her weapon. "You were supposed to be my contact. You ghosted me for 3 days." Malcolm stepped closer, glancing at Rex with a hint of admiration. "You've uncovered something we've been trying to prove for 6 months. Carter was part of a private security funnel, transporting seized narcotics and missing persons to offshore buyers through the wilderness routes. We were close to flipping him. Until you blew it up." Lauren grit her teeth. "So you're blaming me for doing your job?" "I'm saying you weren't supposed to be here," Malcolm said, voice tightening. "You weren't cleared, and now the wrong people know you're involved." A tense silence passed. Then Lauren lowered her weapon. "So what now?" "You help me finish this," Malcolm said. "You've got Rex, you've got instinct, and frankly I don't trust anyone else not already compromised." She glanced at Rex. He stared back, as if waiting for her call. "Where do we start?" Malcolm smiled grimly. "With the last name on that file, Whitaker, retired colonel, owns half the land surrounding Black Hollow, and if Operation Widow's Fang is real, he's the one who started it." Lauren nodded. "Then we're going hunting." Outside the wind had picked up, snow falling harder now, but Lauren felt something different this time. She wasn't chasing shadows anymore. Now she had a target. And Rex was ready. The snowstorm had tapered off, but the sky remained an ominous grey. Lauren stood at the edge of Whitaker's vast estate, scanning the private road that led through dense pine toward the compound. Barbed wire, surveillance poles, and a massive iron gate blocked the way. Everything about it screamed military precision, not a retirement retreat. Beside her, Rex stood silent, motionless, ears twitching as he sensed the tension ahead. "You're sure this is it?" Lauren asked, not taking her eyes off the perimeter. Malcolm Reese pulled a pair of binoculars from his coat and studied the entrance. "Positive. Satellite pinged a heat signature of at least 6 bodies inside. And that's just the main building. If Whitaker's hiding anything, it's in there." "Let's make it quick," Lauren muttered. She and Malcolm moved through the trees, circling the fence line. They reached a section that had clearly been disturbed, fresh earth, newly welded mesh. Rex moved forward, nose to the ground, then stopped and barked once. There was a buried sensor. Lauren held her breath. "They're wired for motion." "Not just that," Malcolm said. "These are thermal linked, standard DOD. You walk past them, and they know you're not wildlife." Lauren's jaw clenched. We're not getting in the front door. Not unless we want to get lit up by a private army. Then Rex did something neither of them expected. He started walking away from the fence toward a tree-covered slope, head low, nose twitching. Lauren followed instinctively. "What's he doing?" Malcolm called. "Following a scent," Lauren said, eyes narrowed. "He's got something." They pushed through dense thickets, icy branches clawing at their jackets. Rex led them nearly a quarter-mile along the ridgeline before stopping at a shallow, snow-covered ridge. His paws scratched at the ground, revealing a grated vent embedded in the earth. Malcolm knelt beside it. "Access. Tunnel emergency escape route," Lauren said. "If Whitaker's old-school military, he'd never build a fortress without a back door." They pried the vent open and dropped into a narrow shaft. The air inside was stale, damp with the scent of concrete and time. Lauren clicked on her flashlight. Rex moved ahead of them, silent but focused, every step confident. They crept through the service tunnel, which curved downward and eventually opened into a dimly lit chamber. Lauren signaled Malcolm to stay back while she and Rex scouted. At the end of the corridor was a reinforced steel door, unmarked but not locked. Lauren pushed it open slowly. Beyond was a surveillance hub. Dozens of monitors lined the walls, some showing security feeds from the estate, others filled with satellite images, logistics spreadsheets, and video logs. Then she saw it. A live feed. Abby. On screen. Crying, sitting in what looked like a holding cell. Lauren's heart dropped. "She's still here." Malcolm joined her, face pale. "We didn't extract her. They intercepted the evac. That chopper never made it out." Lauren turned to him sharply. "You said she was safe. You said Valerie got her out." "I was told the handoff happened. We were wrong." On screen, a door opened and a tall man stepped in. White hair, upright posture, eyes cold. Whitaker. He handed Abby something. Candy. Smiled. Said something the mic didn't catch. Lauren stepped back from the screen. He's conditioning her, grooming her for something. Malcolm's voice trembled. He's done this before. This isn't just about fentanyl. Suddenly, the room's lights flickered. Then a calm voice over the intercom. "Agent Monroe, Mr. Reese, we've been expecting you." Lauren stiffened. "That's not a recording." "No," the voice replied. "This is Colonel Whitaker. You've come this far. Might as well come the rest of the way." Then all the screens blinked off except one, a schematic map showing the location of a reinforced elevator. A slow red pulse flashed. Rex growled low, eyes locked on the blinking map. "He wants us to come to him," Malcolm said. "He thinks we're here to negotiate." Lauren replied. "He doesn't realize we brought Rex." They found the elevator embedded in a secondary corridor, hidden behind what looked like a utility wall. Lauren hit the switch. It groaned and began descending. "Why not kill us here?" Malcolm asked. "He could have flooded the tunnel." "Because he wants control," Lauren said. "He wants to explain. That's his weakness." When the doors opened, they stepped into what looked like a war room. Oak-paneled walls, military flags, maps of global drug routes, and Whitaker, waiting by a fireplace with a tumbler of scotch in hand. "You've cost me a great deal," he said calmly, "but I admire tenacity." Rex stood poised, tail straight, not barking, watching. "You drugged a child," Lauren said coldly. "You staged a rescue to cover a fake abduction. All for what? Leverage?" Whitaker didn't flinch. "Abby is a valuable asset. Her father's debt to me, his silence, bought her temporary safety. But when he broke rank, he compromised the operation." "What operation?" Malcolm demanded. "Widow's Fang," Whitaker said simply. "We identify children lost in the system, clean backgrounds, transfer them offshore. The buyers are governments, not criminals. They want future operatives, moldable minds. It's bigger than this town, bigger than you. Lauren felt bile rising. You're trafficking children and dressing it up as intelligence work. It's national interest. It's human slavery. Whitaker's smile faded. You're idealistic. I expected that, but this ends here. He nodded once. From the shadows, 2 armed guards stepped forward, rifles raised. Before anyone could react, Rex launched. He hit the first guard like a missile, teeth sinking into the man's arm, ripping the weapon away. The second guard turned, but Lauren had already drawn. One shot dropped him. Whitaker moved for a hidden switch under the fireplace mantel. Malcolm tackled him hard. The room became chaos, shouting, glass shattering, a fire igniting in the hearth as one of the sconces fell. Lauren raced to a control panel on the far wall. Where's the cell feed? She found the switch. The screen blinked. Abby, still locked in a room 2 floors below. She keyed the code, unlocked the room, and turned to Rex. Find her, go! Rex bolted through the side hallway as alarms began to blare. Whitaker, bloodied and pinned beneath Malcolm, looked up at Lauren. You have no idea what you've started. She stared down at him. Number, you have no idea what Rex is about to finish. Rex tore down the corridor like a streak of lightning, his paws barely making a sound against the concrete floor. He moved with purpose, his body low and sleek, ears pinned forward, eyes sharp. He wasn't following orders now. He was following instinct, memory, scent, Abby's scent. The facility rumbled with the sound of distant alarms. Red emergency lights pulsed across the walls, casting everything in a strobe of danger and urgency. Lauren's voice echoed faintly in the distance, shouting for backup, for extraction. But Rex didn't wait for anyone. He turned corners like he knew this place better than its builders. He reached the lower level. A locked blast door barred the way. Rex didn't hesitate. He leapt at the control panel, his paw striking the keypad just enough to dislodge the plastic casing. Sparks flew. The door didn't open, but the noise drew attention. From down the adjacent hall, 2 more guards appeared, weapons drawn. Rex flattened against the wall, silent. When the first man passed, Rex sprang. His jaws locked around the wrist holding the weapon, crushing tendons and sending the rifle skidding. The second man raised, his pistol, but Rex twisted midair and barreled into his chest, knocking him backward into a steel locker. Both went down hard. Alone again, Rex returned to the broken keypad. He barked once, sharp and commanding. Upstairs, in the control room, Lauren heard it through the intercom. That's him, she said, turning to the console. He found the cell. She punched in the backup override she'd memorized from a schematic earlier, something that had felt like a long shot at the time. With a mechanical groan, the blast door slid open. Rex raced inside. The room was cold, metallic, bare. In the corner, on a thin mattress, curled into herself, was Abby. She looked up slowly, dazed, eyes wide with disbelief. Rex. The German shepherd froze for a heartbeat, then moved forward, carefully, as if afraid to startle her. He nudged her gently with his nose. Abby's face crumpled, and she buried herself in his fur, sobbing. You came back. You came... Behind them, a speaker crackled. Very touching. Whitaker's voice. Rex turned, body shielding Abby instinctively. Cameras embedded in the ceiling blinked red. You really think you're walking out of here? Whitaker's voice oozed calm control. That's not a dog. That's a weapon. And weapons stay where they're useful. Lauren was already on the move, racing down the same passage Rex had taken. Her boots echoed against steel grates as she descended through the fire escape. In the cell, the floor began to shift. Panels retracted to reveal metal grates underneath. Gas hissed into the room. Rex reacted instantly, knocking Abby back against the wall and covering her mouth gently with his muzzle. He whined and growled, warning her to hold her breath. The gas was faint but noxious, laced with sedatives. Upstairs, Malcolm was still holding Whitaker against the wall, but the older man smiled through the blood on his lips. "She won't reach them in time," Whitaker said. "Your brilliant agent may have found the girl, but you've both underestimated the timeline." He reached into his coat pocket. Malcolm saw the motion and grabbed his wrist too late. Whitaker pressed a small device. A vibration rolled through the building. Below, Rex jerked upright. The ceiling above the cell trembled. Abby screamed. "It's coming down!" Lauren hit the corner just as the ceiling support cracked. With no hesitation, she lunged inside and grabbed Abby, dragging her into the corridor. Rex followed, barking furiously. The ceiling caved in behind them. Concrete crashed down, blocking the way back. Rex turned to Lauren, his coat singed with dust, and nudged her leg. He was limping now, his left hind leg bloody from a falling fragment. Still, he stood tall, alert. Lauren touched his shoulder. "You saved her. Again." Abby clung to Rex, her tiny hands buried in his fur, trembling but safe. Then, behind them, footsteps. From the smoke and rubble emerged someone they weren't expecting. Valerie, Abby's mother, gun in hand, eyes wild. Lauren's breath caught. "How? I was never on that chopper," Valerie said. "They used me to lure you here. Told me if I cooperated, they'd let Abby go." She looked at her daughter, voice cracking. "I didn't know they were lying." Lauren stepped forward, cautious. "Then help us now." Valerie's hands shook. For a second, it looked like she'd point the gun at Lauren, but then she dropped it. The clatter echoed through the hallway. "I'll testify," she said, "whatever it takes." Behind them, the ground shook again. Whitaker's self-destruct mechanism wasn't finished. Rex barked once, low and sharp. Lauren nodded. "Time to go." They ran. Back through the vents, through collapsing hallways and rising smoke. The facility groaned with structural stress. Abby stumbled. Valerie scooped her up. Rex, even limping, took point. At the tunnel's edge, a spotlight cut through the trees. A black chopper hovered over the ridge. Malcolm's voice crackled over the comms. "Extraction inbound. Clock's ticking." Lauren and Valerie burst through the foliage just as the first part of the compound exploded behind them. A fireball lit up the sky. Lauren turned to make sure everyone was there. Rex stood at the tree line, watching the flames, breathing hard, blood on his leg, but his eyes were sharp. He turned toward Lauren. She gave him one nod. "Come home." Rex bounded onto the chopper just as the ground behind him gave way. Doors slammed shut. Blades screamed overhead. They lifted into the night. Abby curled into her mother's arms. Lauren leaned back, staring at Rex as he laid beside her, head resting on her boot. He looked up at her, calm now. And for the first time in days, she let herself breathe. They were safe, but this wasn't the end. Not yet. The hospital room was quiet, lit by the soft orange glow of the late afternoon sun. Abby lay curled under crisp white sheets, her tiny chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. Machines hummed gently around her. Beside the bed, Lauren sat with a styrofoam coffee cup untouched in her hands, eyes fixed on the sleeping girl. Rex lay at the foot of the bed, his body still, head on his paws. He hadn't moved since they arrived. No growls, no shifting. Just silent, loyal watchfulness. The hospital had tried to keep him outside at first, but after 2 nurses witnessed Abby wake up from a nightmare, screaming and sobbing until Rex was brought in, the staff changed their minds. The door creaked open. Malcolm stepped in, fresh from DC, suit slightly wrinkled from the flight. "She's stable," Lauren said without turning. "Doctors say the physical damage is minor. Dehydration, Malnourishment. Trauma's going to take time. Malcolm nodded, then looked down at Rex. And him? Hairline fracture in the hind leg. Vet says it'll heal clean. She finally turned toward him. But it's not his leg I'm worried about. Malcolm knelt beside the German shepherd. Rex didn't flinch, but his eyes tracked the movement. He hasn't touched his food, barely responds to anything but Abby. Lauren's voice softened. He's exhausted. Not physically, something deeper, like he knows this isn't over. Malcolm stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city buzzed as if nothing had happened. No one out there knew what almost went down in the wilderness, what had been buried, what still wasn't over. "Whitaker's gone," Malcolm said. The explosion left nothing but ash, but the files Lauren recovered, there were names, accounts, transactions, leads. Lauren stood, shoulders squared. And Valerie. In protective custody, she gave a full statement, what they did to her, how they used her and Abby, and how she finally turned on them. There was a beat. "She's not innocent," Lauren added. "No," Malcolm said, "but she's not the villain either." Rex lifted his head slightly, ears twitching. Then a sound in the hallway, a voice. Abby's father. He pushed the door open gently, his face a wreck of emotion, eyes sunken, hair unkempt. As soon as he saw Abby, he choked back a sob. She stirred, blinking up at him. "Daddy?" He was at her side in a flash. "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here." Rex rose and backed off slightly, giving space, but his tail wagged just once, slowly, like an exhale. Lauren stepped out, giving them privacy. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall. Malcolm followed. "Director wants to give Rex a commendation," he said. "He deserves more than a medal," Lauren replied. "He defied a direct command. He went rogue and saved her." "Technically," Malcolm said with a smirk. "You defied orders too." She smirked back. "So we're both in trouble." Then her expression darkened. "But we have to go further. What if there are more like Abby? More kids caught up in this? The operation we busted was just one facility. What if it wasn't the only one?" Malcolm nodded. "We're forming a task force. Quiet for now. Off the books. And we want you in." Lauren didn't hesitate. "Then I'm in." Back inside, Abby had drifted back to sleep, her hand resting lightly on Rex's neck. Her father watched them both with quiet awe. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room, a nurse stepped in and froze. "Sorry," she whispered. "There's someone downstairs. Says he's from Homeland. Wants to speak to whoever brought in the dog." Lauren exchanged a glance with Malcolm. Minutes later, they were downstairs in the lobby. A tall man in a black windbreaker stood by the security desk, arms crossed, badge visible. "You're Lauren Avery?" he asked. "Yes." He handed her a sealed envelope. "This isn't official. Not yet. But it will be." Lauren opened it. Inside was a single line. "K9RX4 is to be decommissioned, effective, immediately." She blinked. "This is a joke, right?" The agent didn't flinch. "Your dog defied protocol. He broke operational containment, injured federal personnel, and nearly compromised a covert raid. That's a liability." "He saved a little girl's life." She shot back. "And he's a military asset with unauthorized programming overrides. That kind of independence makes him unpredictable." Lauren stepped forward. "If you come near him, I swear—" Malcolm touched her shoulder. "Let me handle this." But Rex had already appeared behind them, silent, watching. The agent looked down at the German shepherd. Their eyes locked. A tension passed through the air. Rex didn't bark, didn't move, but his presence made the man uncomfortable. The agent pulled a pen from his pocket. "I'm leaving this with you," he muttered, handing Malcolm a temporary stay order. "You've got 72 hours, then we're coming back." He turned and walked out. Lauren knelt beside Rex. "We're not letting them take you." Rex nuzzled into her shoulder. Behind them, Abby had come down the hallway, her hospital gown dragging slightly. "They can't take him," she said. "He's mine now." Malcolm looked at the girl, then at Rex. "Well," he said, "maybe the Pentagon just got outvoted." They all turned to the window as sirens wailed far off in the city. Whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing. This wasn't the end of the mission. It was just the beginning. The basement under Homeland's auxiliary archive smelled of dust and something older. The air hung heavy with forgotten files and failed operations. Lauren moved down the corridor with a flashlight in one hand, Malcolm behind her with a thin laptop and a portable scanner. Rex padded silently beside them, ears alert. "I don't like this," Malcolm muttered. "You know they're tracking our clearance use. If anyone finds out we accessed the off-layer program, they'll bury us." Lauren finished for him. "But if there are more kids like Abby out there, we don't have the luxury of fear." They reached a locked metal door marked OPRAVENFALLOUT, Level 7 Classified. Lauren held up a clearance badge. "Borrowed it from the director's desk," she whispered. "He won't miss it for an hour." The lock clicked. They stepped into a narrow room filled with rusted cabinets and a terminal humming in the corner. Rex stopped near one file cabinet, sniffed it once, then sat. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. "He just picked one." Lauren opened the drawer. Inside, rows of dusty folders, names, dates, site IDs, photos. Her fingers shook as she flipped through them. 3 more facilities," she whispered. "One in Nevada, one offshore, one Montana, all labeled defunct. But look at this." She pulled out a report. A girl, age 7, marked MIA during an internal transport failure. Case closed. No further investigation. She vanished into thin air, and they just stamped it filed. Lauren said. "And look, dates match a supply drop that Whitaker's team logged just months before Abby was taken." Malcolm looked over her shoulder. "And this one's even worse. That girl, they listed her as asset compromised. Not child." Asset Lauren dropped the folder on the floor. Suddenly, Rex growled low in his throat. Footsteps. They weren't alone. The door slammed shut behind them. A figure stood in the doorway. Black tactical gear. Visor. Silenced pistol drawn. Lauren reached for her sidearm. The intruder raised a gloved hand. "Don't." The voice was familiar. Too familiar. The helmet came off. "Director Jennings?" Malcolm's jaw dropped. "You're the one who filed the decommission order." Jennings looked older than usual. Tired. Lines cut deeper into his face. But there was no mistaking the steel in his eyes. "I warned you both," he said. "You had no idea what you were stepping into. This isn't about one girl or one operation. You're standing in the ashes of a war most people don't know ever happened. You protected a child trafficking ring." Lauren snapped. "I dismantled it," Jennings said calmly. "Piece by piece, but not before it embedded itself into defense, research, even biotech. The people behind this don't wear masks. They wear medals." Rex stepped forward, growling again. Jennings glanced down at him. "I never wanted that dog assigned to you," he said. "Too much initiative, too much intuition. He thinks for himself. He's a wild card." "He saved her," Lauren said, "because he didn't wait for permission." Jennings sighed and handed her a flash drive. "This is everything," he said. "Every location, every name, every payoff. I was going to bury it. I can't anymore." "Why now?" Malcolm asked. Jennings looked toward the closed door. "Because your dog just sent me an alert ping 10 minutes ago. Motion synced. He picked up a trace pattern in the Nevada site you just uncovered." Lauren blinked. You mean? Jennings nodded. They reopened it, and they're active again. Malcolm turned pale. Why the hell would they do that? To retrieve their last product. Jennings said. They want Abby back. Outside, a faint rumble began. Then lights flickered. Are we under attack? Lauren asked. No, Jennings said. They're here to wipe the evidence, all of it. Lauren looked at the flash drive, then at Rex. He stood ready. No fear, just clarity. We have to get this to someone who'll actually act, she said. You've got less than 10 minutes, Jennings said. There's an old exit tunnel under the west wall. I'll stall them. He looked down at Rex again. He's not a dog, he's a fuse. If you don't light it now, this all dies in the dark. Rex let out a sharp bark, then sprinted toward the tunnel door. Lauren and Malcolm followed, clutching the drive. Behind them, the sounds of gunfire erupted through the facility. Jennings drew his weapon and stepped into the hallway, alone. As they raced through the crumbling corridor, Lauren felt a sudden weight lift. Not relief, but purpose. They weren't just running anymore. They were about to blow the entire system open. The Nevada site burned behind them, smoke curling into the dawn like a funeral pyre for secrets that had festered too long. Lauren stood on a ridge overlooking the compound, dirt-streaked and bruised, but unbroken. Beside her, Rex sat tall, his fur scorched in places, eyes locked on the horizon. Malcolm staggered up, holding the encrypted satellite transmitter. Drives uploaded. Every name, every dollar, every buried body. They can't hide it now. In the valley below, sirens screamed. Helicopters chopped the sky. News vans rolled in, followed by black SUVs with new agents. Real ones, the kind who didn't flinch when truth hit them in the face. Lauren glanced at Rex. They'll call you a hero. Rex didn't move, just blinked once, calm as ever. You saved a child. You exposed a machine. And you reminded all of us what loyalty really looks like. She whispered. A young girl's voice called out behind them. Rex! Abby ran up the hill, past stunned responders and news crews. She threw her arms around the German shepherd, burying her face in his chest. Rex leaned into her, tail thumping once, protective and gentle. A reporter shouted, Ma'am, is it true a dog disobeyed orders and saved this girl? Lauren looked into the camera. Number, he didn't disobey. He did what none of us had the guts to do. He acted when silence was safer. He chose right over regulation. She stepped back, letting the camera pan to Rex and Abby. Two survivors, bonded not by orders, but by instinct and trust. His name is Rex, she said, and the world needs more like him. The feed went live nationwide. Across America, people watched. Some cried, some cheered, others, powerful ones, panicked. But one thing was clear. The story had broken free, and so had justice. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the power of truth, courage, and loyalty, then help us keep telling stories like Rex's. Subscribe, support, and share the mission of German Shepherd, because heroes don't always walk on two legs.